ocean is a place of ancient memory, a realm where time itself seems to sleep beneath leagues of black water. For centuries, it has swallowed ships and secrets without a trace, offering no explanation for the things it hides. But among the many legends whispered by sailors and conspiracy theorists alike, few are as disturbing or as persistently mysterious as the story of the SS Orang Medan. It began, as these stories often do, with a cry for help. Somewhere in the treacherous waters of the Strait of Malacca, in the late 1940s, an eerie SOS signal crackled across the radios of nearby ships. The message was brief, broken, and blood-chilling. All officers, including captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. I die. Then, silence. The ship that reportedly received this signal, the American merchant vessel Silver Star, wasted no time. Coordinates had been included in the distress call, and soon its crew approached the drifting SS Orang Medan. What they found was a scene that would scar them for life and plant the seed of a legend that refuses to die more than 70 years later. The Orang Medan was eerily silent, listing gently in the calm waters. No lights flickered from its decks, no voices or movement greeted the boarding party. What they found inside turned the rescue into a nightmare. The crew of the Orang Medan lay scattered across the ship, their bodies frozen in grotesque poses, eyes wide open, mouths twisted in expressions of unspeakable terror. Some had their arms raised as if trying to fight off something invisible. Others clutched their throats as though strangled by the air itself. There were no signs of violence, no wounds, no blood. Just the stench of death and a thick, unnatural silence that clung to the ship like fog. The rescuers could barely make sense of what they were seeing. Before any serious investigation could be conducted, however, smoke began to rise from the cargo hold. The crew of the Silver Star barely made it back to their ship before the Orang Medan exploded, violently, inexplicably, sending debris and flames skyward. Within moments, the mysterious ship was gone, swallowed by the very sea it haunted. What caused the deaths of the crew? Why was the ship never recorded in official marine logs? And most disturbingly of all, did the SS Orang Medan even exist? For decades, these questions have fueled endless speculation, fear, and dark curiosity. Some claim the story is a hoax, others insist it is one of the most sinister maritime disasters ever buried by international powers. There are theories of poisonous gas leaks, illegal cargo, Cold War cover-ups, and even more disturbing tales of occult rituals, cursed relics, and encounters with something not of this world. The name Orang Medan roughly translates to Man of Medan, a haunting moniker that offers no explanation, only metaphor. Was this ship a ghost even before it set sail? Was it cursed by something ancient and evil? Or was it simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, like so many vessels that have disappeared into the ocean's endless hunger? And if it was real, who sent the signal? In this video, we will unravel the tale of the SS Orang Medan, from the garbled distress call to the ghostly bodies aboard, to the suspicious explosion that erased the ship from the surface of the sea. We'll examine every theory, rational and paranormal, and explore why, even after all these years, the story refuses to rest. Prepare yourself, because this isn't just a mystery of the deep, it's a warning. At approximately 5:30 a.m. on an otherwise uneventful day in 1947, or possibly 1948, depending on which conflicting report you trust, a chilling SOS pierced through the radio waves in the waters near the Strait of Malacca. It wasn't a standard distress call. The transmission was patchy, interrupted by static and bursts of silence, as though the sender were fighting something, or someone, control of the airwaves. The messages came in fragments. At first, just words. SOS, from Orang Medan. We float. Then silence. A few minutes later, another message followed, this one far more cryptic and terrifying. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Another pause, longer this time. Then finally, I die. The message ended there. No coordinates, no explanation. Just a lingering horror behind the finality of those two words. Among the ships that reportedly received this signal was the American merchant vessel Silver Star. Though the Silver Star has no verifiable log entries that survive today, another detail that casts a long shadow over the tale. Its crew is said to have tracked the origin of the signal using triangulation methods, pinpointing a ghost ship adrift somewhere southeast of the Malaysian coast. When the Silver Star came upon the Orang Medan, what they saw was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The vessel was utterly silent, with no movement on deck and no response to repeated hails by radio or loudspeaker. The hull appeared undamaged, the waters calm. There was no smoke, no visible threat. Just the overwhelming sense that something had gone catastrophically wrong aboard. A boarding party was assembled. As they crossed to the derelict ship, they reported an unnatural chill in the air, despite the tropical humidity. One sailor later claimed the temperature dropped nearly 30 degrees within seconds of stepping on deck. Another described a pressure in the air that felt like being there inside a sealed tomb. Inside the ship, the horror revealed itself. The crew of the Orang Medan was indeed dead, every last one of them. The bodies were sprawled across the bridge, the radio room, the engine compartment. Their faces were locked in grotesque masks of agony and terror. Some had eyes wide open and jaws gaping, as if screaming at death itself. Others were curled into fetal positions, as though trying to escape an invisible force that had claimed their souls. And yet not a single body bore a wound. No signs of struggle, no blood, no defensive injuries. Just a ship filled with corpses, frozen in horror. Even the ship's dog, reportedly a large German shepherd, was found dead on the deck, bared teeth and bulging eyes frozen in the same grotesque expression. Every living being aboard had died in what could only be described as an instant of indescribable terror. The engine room offered no explanation, no fires, no signs of poisoning, no mechanical failure. The boilers were still slightly warm, indicating the ship had only recently lost power. Food sat untouched on tables in the galley. Clocks had stopped at different times, as if time itself had fractured on board. Just as the Silver Star crew began preparations to tow the Orang Medan back to port, something went terribly wrong. Smoke began to rise from below deck, first faintly, then rapidly billowing into thick dark clouds. The boarding crew scrambled to evacuate. Moments later, a massive explosion tore through the ship, launching debris skyward and splashing metal into the sea like flaming confetti. The blast was so powerful that the Orang Medan cracked in two and sank beneath the waves almost instantly, leaving behind only scorched oil slicks and the stunned crew of the Silver Star. Whatever had killed the crew had now claimed the ship itself. The timing of the explosion was suspicious, uncanny even. Many believe it was not accidental, but deliberate. A mechanism, perhaps, to destroy evidence of what had occurred aboard. A self-destruct device? A volatile chemical reaction? Or something far more calculated and inhuman? Some modern theorists argue the ship may have been carrying a dangerous cargo, nitroglycerin, potassium cyanide, or even an early form of nerve gas. These substances could explain the explosion and possibly the crew's deaths. Except for one problem: the faces, the expressions, the pure, unnatural terror frozen into their features. It wasn't suffocation. It wasn't gas. It was fear. Whatever the cause, the explosion ensured one thing: no one would ever know the truth. All logs, manifest records, and cargo details were lost to the deep. The SS Orang Medan became not just a tragedy, but an impossibility. A ship with no official documentation, no registry under any known maritime authority, and no surviving evidence beyond secondhand accounts. Skeptics use this lack of documentation to argue the story was a fabrication. But believers ask a darker question. If someone wanted to erase the Orang Medan, wouldn't this be exactly how they do it? The story spread like wildfire among maritime circles. Sailors whispered the name Orang Medan with dread. Radio operators claimed to hear phantom signals, distorted echoes of the original SOS, repeating like a curse in the dead of night. And just like that, a ship with no official origin and no provable end became one of the ocean's most enduring and terrifying mysteries. But the story doesn't end here. Because the deeper one digs, the more the Orang Medan begins to resemble something far more horrifying than a shipwreck. It begins to look like a secret someone was willing to kill for. In any unsolved mystery, documentation is the cornerstone of truth. Logs, cargo manifests, ship registries. These are the fingerprints of a vessel's existence. And yet the SS Orang Medan leaves behind no fingerprints at all. For a ship that allegedly sent a distress call, was witnessed by an entire rescue crew, and reportedly exploded in open waters, the official record is disturbingly silent. There are no confirmed entries in the Lloyd's Register of Ships, the maritime world's go-to ledger of verified sea vessels. No nation, neither the Netherlands, Britain, nor the United States, claims it in naval logs. No known shipping company admits to owning it. There's no build record, no crew list, no insurance filing, and no trace of the Orang Medan's departure or intended destination. In every bureaucratic sense, the ship never existed. But how can something so vividly remembered and so consistently described be a fabrication? The deeper you search, the more disturbing the contradictions become. The first known mention of the SS Orang Medan comes from a 1952 publication of the Proceedings of the Merchant Marine Council, a U.S. Coast Guard newsletter. The article, titled Death Ship in the Strait of Malacca, recounts the story based on second-hand reports and an unnamed source. Curiously, the piece stops short of drawing conclusions and leaves much to interpretation, almost as if it were testing the waters of public reaction. Before that, a pair of speculative articles appeared in Dutch and Indonesian newspapers in 1948, citing a mysterious Dutch freighter that exploded after a failed rescue attempt. These early reports reference a ghost ship found near the Solomon Islands and identify the name as Orang Medan, Malaysian for Man of Medan. The name is our first unsettling clue. It is generic, vague, and strangely impersonal, like a code name or cipher, not the title of a real ship. Medan is a city in northern Sumatra, and Orang simply means man or person in Malay. Could this have been a placeholder, a disguise for something classified? Some believe the name was a deliberate misdirection, a way to mask the ship's true identity in order to protect those involved. Others point to wartime ships that were renamed, repurposed, or erased altogether for espionage or black market purposes, particularly in the chaotic aftermath of World War II. One widely discussed theory is that the Orang Medan was a ghost freighter, engaged in black market trade or secret military transport. Several accounts suggest it may have been carrying lethal and illegal cargo, including potassium cyanide, nitroglycerin, or even early forms of chemical warfare agents being smuggled from post-war stockpiles. This could explain both the sudden deaths of the crew and the explosive destruction of the ship. The idea of volatile chemicals leaking in the tropical heat, causing suffocation, disorientation, and eventual combustion, is technically plausible. But if true, such a cargo would have been deeply illegal and highly classified, giving governments every reason to destroy records and silence witnesses. Even more disturbing is the suggestion that the cargo wasn't meant to be transported for profit, but for experimentation. Some theorists believe the ship was part of a post-war operation to test biochemical reactions on a living crew, with the SS Orang Medan acting as a floating laboratory of death. If so, the deaths wouldn't be an accident, they'd be the result of a deliberate act. The post-World War II era was rife with experimental warfare programs. Both Allied and Axis powers engaged in classified research on nerve agents, toxic gases, and psychological warfare methods. Nazi scientists working on weaponized LSD, Japanese Unit 731 testing on human subjects, and the CIA's Project MK-Ultra all emerged during this period of quiet horror. If the Orang Medan was carrying something like tabun or sarin gas, both odorless and fatal in enclosed spaces, the unexplained deaths would make more sense. And the explosion? Possibly a failsafe to prevent evidence recovery, triggered remotely or by a delayed chemical reaction. Still, that theory doesn't explain the detail that has haunted every version of the tale. The faces, the terror, the way every corpse was frozen in absolute panic. That's not just poisoning, that's fear. Pure, primal, inescapable fear. Despite the supposed survival of the Silver Star crew, No first-person statements have ever been published. No logbook excerpts, no interviews, no public reports. The complete silence of everyone involved is itself suspicious. One former sailor, years later under a pseudonym, claimed that after returning from the Orang Medan, they were interrogated by U.S. intelligence officers, sworn to secrecy, and threatened with court-martial if they ever spoke about what they saw. Whether this is true or just another embellishment is unclear, but it's consistent with the way stories around the SS Orang Medan seem to evaporate the closer you look. Even the wreckage has never been found. The coordinates were vague and no salvage operations were reported. Despite sonar scans and modern search efforts, no remnants of the ship have ever been recovered from the seabed. It is as if the sea opened, swallowed the Orang Maiden whole, and erased every trace. Or perhaps someone else did. Skeptics argue that the entire story is a legend, a cautionary ghost tale invented to entertain sailors or distract from real maritime crimes, and certainly some aspects seem too perfect for horror fiction. The cryptic last words, the untouched bodies, the final explosion. But legends don't usually come with so many sources. Newspaper articles, government newsletters, amateur researchers, all tracing threads of a mystery that has no reason to exist unless something real once happened. What if the SS Orang Medan isn't a fable, but a fragment of a larger truth? Something only partially leaked, then aggressively buried? This isn't just the absence of evidence. It's the presence of erasure. Which raises a terrifying question. What happened aboard the Orang Medan that someone wanted to disappear so completely? As we move deeper into the theories, we find ourselves leaving the realm of maritime history and descending into something far more sinister. The paranormal, the occult, and the possibility that the sea holds not just forgotten tragedies, but something that actively devours the truth. When conventional explanations collapse, when science and history offer no satisfying answers, what remains is a dark, forbidden well of speculation. The disappearance of the SS Orang Medan is one of those rare mysteries that refuses to be contained by logic. And in that void, something sinister festers. Theories of poisonous gas and chemical weapons may appeal to reason, but they cannot explain the raw terror left in the wake of the Orang Medan. They cannot account for the silent screams, the arched backs, the faces twisted in horror, or the immediate obliteration of the ship once it was discovered. And they certainly cannot explain the feeling described by every alleged witness, that something unseen, yet horrifyingly present, had taken hold of that ship. It is here that our journey enters the shadows. One of the most persistent occult explanations is that the Orang Medan was carrying a cursed artifact, a relic stolen or smuggled from a forbidden temple, a pharaoh's tomb, or a war-torn region filled with ancient power. The post-World War II black market was flooded with looted objects, many of which disappeared into private hands. Could the Orang Medan have been transporting something that should never have been disturbed? Some versions of this theory suggest that the ship was moving an ancient occult object, possibly an idol or scroll associated with death cults from Southeast Asia or Mesopotamia. Perhaps it had been plundered from a forgotten temple in the Indonesian jungle, or taken from a burial ground during wartime expeditions. According to legend, certain objects carry more than historical weight. They carry the wrath of the dead. In several Southeast Asian cultures, objects taken from sacred sites are believed to carry the energy or vengeance of spirits. If such an item were on board, its presence might explain the inexplicable deaths, the atmosphere of dread, and the supernatural resistance to discovery or documentation. The idea isn't new. The story of the Hope Diamond, the Dybbuk box, and even King Tutankhamun's tomb all carry with them dark tales of curses, misfortune, and unexplained deaths. The Orang Medan, some argue, may have been just another victim, not of war or greed, but of a force older than civilization. Another even darker theory suggests that the crew of the Orang Medan didn't accidentally stumble into doom, but summoned it. According to several fringe researchers and online forums devoted to maritime mysteries, the ship may have been used by a rogue sect practicing sea-bound occult rituals. With its remote location, unregistered status, and total isolation, the Orang Medan would have been the perfect vessel for clandestine rites. especially those forbidden by law or common sanity. These theorists believe the crew may have engaged in necromantic practices, invoking spirits or demonic entities in exchange for power, knowledge, or wealth. The horrifying end of the crew could have been the result of a ritual gone wrong, or worse, a ritual that succeeded in inviting something aboard that could not be banished. Some point to the "I die" message not as a factual report, but as a final act of confession or even warning. The radio operator may have known that something had been unleashed and that death was inevitable. There's even a rumored connection to the German Tool Society, a real-world occult group that allegedly influenced elements of the Nazi regime. Some claim that remnants of this society fled post-war Europe on unregistered ships, bringing with them arcane knowledge, stolen artifacts, and dangerous texts. If one of these ships was the Orang Medan, the result might have been a perfect storm of death and secrecy. Is there any evidence for such rituals? Not in the conventional sense, but believers point to the absence of injuries on the crew, the unnatural expressions, and the explosive end of the ship as hallmarks of spiritual or demonic possession. Some even speculate that the vessel crossed into another plane of existence, briefly breaching the veil between life and death. A more modern paranormal theory is that the Orang Medan was caught in an interdimensional event, perhaps a natural rift in space-time or a man-made experiment gone awry. Proponents of this idea draw connections between the Orang Medan and other anomalies like the Philadelphia experiment, in which a U.S. Navy ship allegedly vanished and reappeared with its crew, fused into the bulkheads. Could the Orang Medan have briefly passed into a different dimension, one ruled by malevolent entities or distorted laws of reality? If so, the horror on the crew's faces might be the result of witnessing something they were never meant to see. This could also explain the ship's strange radio signal, sent from nowhere, and its final disappearance in a fiery blast. According to this theory, the Orang Medan may have suffered a break in reality itself, and what returned was not entirely of this world. Even skeptics admit that this would account for the lack of evidence, the ship's undocumented existence, and the explosive end that left no remains. A less supernatural but equally disturbing idea is that the ship's crew suffered from shared hallucination or psychic attack, either through exposure to a mind-altering substance or something even less tangible. There are stories of ghost ships where the crew went mad after hearing voices in the water or encountering phantom figures. In maritime folklore, ships are said to carry their own spirits, and long voyages can create a mental pressure cooker that cracks the mind. But in the case of the Orang Medan, it's not madness that terrifies, it's the uniformity of the crew's deaths, the sheer synchronization of terror. If this was a haunting, it wasn't a gentle one. Some paranormal researchers believe the sea itself can be a conduit, a fluid reflective surface that amplifies energy and emotion. A haunted sea could produce haunted ships, and maybe, just maybe, the Orang Medan crossed a place it shouldn't have. A place where souls scream without mouths and death moves without form. In every one of these theories, rituals, interdimensional slips, cursed relics, hauntings, one detail persists: the feeling that the crew encountered something more than death, something beyond horror, something so awful that their final act was not to escape, but to warn, "I die." 3 words that remain the only voice ever heard from the SS Orang Medan. A whisper across time, a warning from a grave with no coordinates. The final chapter in the tragic saga of the SS Orang Medan is as mysterious as the ship itself. The sudden, catastrophic explosion that ended any hope of uncovering the truth. This moment marks the ultimate erasure, obliterating evidence, silencing witnesses, and leaving only whispers and speculation behind. What really caused the explosion? Was it an accident, a desperate act of sabotage, or something far darker and deliberate? According to the most widely accepted accounts, after the crew of the Silver Star boarded the Orang Medan and found the entire crew dead, faces frozen in terror, bodies splayed in unnatural positions, the ship suddenly exploded. There was no warning, no chance to escape. The blast destroyed the ship, leaving nothing but drifting debris and burning wreckage on the open sea. The explosion sealed the fate of the Orang Medan. Whatever secrets it carried vanished with it. But the cause of the explosion remains unclear. Chemical instability from leaked cargo is the obvious explanation, especially if the ship was carrying volatile substances like cyanide or nitroglycerin. Yet no conclusive proof or physical evidence was ever recovered to confirm this. Some accounts suggest the ship was rigged to self-destruct, a scorched earth tactic to prevent capture. If the Orang Medan was involved in illicit activities, classified missions, or occult rituals, destroying it would ensure nothing could be seized by authorities or rival powers. Many theories propose that the explosion was intentional sabotage, a last act of control by unknown forces, either on board or outside the ship. If the Orang Medan was carrying dangerous cargo, it's possible the crew themselves detonated the ship to prevent the cargo from falling into enemy hands. This theory aligns with the cryptic "I die" radio message, suggesting a final desperate warning from a doomed operator. Alternatively, a covert government or military agency might have intercepted the Orang Medan and destroyed it to erase all traces of an illegal operation. Post-war geopolitical tensions made Southeast Asia a hotbed for espionage, black market dealings, and secret experiments, any of which might justify such a drastic action. The total lack of investigation or salvage effort supports the idea of a deliberate cover-up. If the explosion was a crime of concealment, official silence and denial would be expected. The absence of survivors and lack of official reports is what fuels the enduring mystery. The Silver Star crew, who reportedly found the Orang Medan's crew dead, remain anonymous and untraceable. Their silence is deafening. If they were real, and many question even that, they would be the only witnesses to the horror. Yet their testimony vanished as quickly as the ship itself. There is speculation that the Silver Star's logs and crew were confiscated, their memories suppressed by threats or bribes. Even more chilling is the possibility that the crew was silenced permanently to maintain secrecy. After the explosion, no remnants of the Orang Medan were ever officially found. No salvage operations, no search and rescue records, no sunken wreck identified. Modern sonar and underwater exploration have failed to locate any trace. This raises two possibilities. Either the ship sank in a remote, uncharted part of the ocean, where currents scattered debris beyond recognition, or more disturbingly, it was removed. The concept of removal sounds like science fiction, but in the shadowy world of secret military operations, extraordinary measures are not unheard of. Underwater demolition teams, covert recovery operations, or even experimental technology could explain the ship's complete erasure. Not only did the ship disappear, but so did the records. Any official documents, investigation reports, or radio transcripts related to the Orang Medan have been lost, classified, or never existed. This absence has led conspiracy theorists to suggest the involvement of shadowy agencies, intelligence services bent on erasing inconvenient truths. Such agencies have historically controlled information flow in the post-war period, especially concerning secret weapons, chemical agents, or paranormal research. The explosion is the final punctuation in a story soaked in darkness and unanswered questions. It transformed the Orang Medan from a mysterious shipwreck to a ghost ship legend, a vessel erased not just from the sea, but from history itself. In maritime folklore, such sudden destruction is often interpreted as punishment, a supernatural cleansing of evil, or a curse fulfilled. Whether the explosion was caused by chemical chaos, human sabotage, or otherworldly forces, it ensured that the truth would remain hidden beneath the waves. And in that watery grave, the story of the SS Orang Medan continues to haunt sailors, researchers, and horror enthusiasts alike. The story of the SS Orang Medan didn't end with its fiery destruction. Over the decades, the legend has persisted, spawning investigations, documentaries, and relentless curiosity. But the deeper one digs, the murkier the truth becomes. In the modern era, several researchers and maritime historians have tried to uncover the truth behind the Orang Medan. They've scoured archives, naval records, and shipping registries to find any official mention of the ship. Yet the Orang Medan remains elusive. No clear documentation, no passenger lists, no concrete ownership records. Some historians suggest the Orang Medan might never have existed at all, branding it a maritime urban legend or hoax. This argument points to the lack of verifiable evidence and the fact that the story only appeared in sensational pulp magazines and radio broadcasts decades after the alleged incident. However, many eyewitness accounts and secondary reports persist, though often contradictory and unverifiable. This fuels the enigma. Was it real or just a ghost story dressed as fact? With the advent of sonar scanning and underwater drones, expeditions have attempted to locate the wreckage of the Orang Medan. Yet the exact coordinates given in the original story are vague, making any search akin to finding a needle in the vast ocean haystack. No wreck conclusively identified as the Orang Medan has been discovered. Some have suggested nearby shipwrecks could be linked, but without definitive proof, these remain speculation. The ocean itself seems to guard the ship's secrets jealously. Despite, or perhaps because of, its mysterious status, the Orang Medan has carved a permanent niche in maritime folklore and horror culture. It's become synonymous with the ghost ship trope, inspiring novels, films, and podcasts. Its story taps into primal fears, isolation, unseen terror, and the abyssal unknown lurking beneath the waves. The phrase, "I die," transmitted over the radio resonates as a chilling final message, symbolizing helplessness against an overwhelming horror. Online communities and paranormal investigators debate endlessly over the cause, whether it be chemical, supernatural, or conspiratorial. The story invites endless reinterpretation and reinvention, feeding a modern audience's appetite for the macabre. What makes the Orang Medan especially haunting is its timelessness. Unlike many disasters, it offers no closure, no survivor testimonies, no wreckage to visit, no official explanation to accept or reject. Instead, it stands as a blank canvas, allowing each generation to paint its own fears and fantasies onto the ship's doomed voyage. As with all great horror tales, the true terror lies in what we cannot know or see, the invisible evil that might still lurk in the deep, waiting for the next ship to cross its path. The story of the SS Orang Medan is more than a maritime mystery. It is a haunting echo from the darkest corners of the ocean and the human psyche. A ghost ship shrouded in terror, silence, and secrets. It defies explanation and lures us to confront the unknown. Was it a tragic accident caused by deadly cargo, a sinister act of sabotage, or something beyond human understanding? A supernatural curse or an experiment gone horribly wrong? The facts remain submerged beneath layers of myth, lost records, and vanished witnesses. What remains clear is that the Orang Medan embodies the ultimate nightmare of the sea, a vessel where horror reigns absolute, leaving behind only frozen screams and the final, chilling message, "I die." It reminds us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, some ships not meant to be found. For in the vast, cold depths of the ocean, darkness waits patiently, ready to claim the next soul foolish enough to cross its path. The Orang Medan story will forever drift between fact and folklore, a spectral legend whispered by sailors, a warning from the abyss, and a terrifying chapter in the annals of maritime horror.